All right, so if you're an EV owner, this is a big one. You've probably thought about it, maybe even stressed about it. How does my car really do when it gets cold? It's one of the biggest questions we get. So let's just get right into it. So picture this. You walk outside on a totally frozen morning, you're ready to get your day started. You hop in your car and wait a minute, the range on your dashboard is way lower than it was when you parked it last night. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's a super common and super frustrating thing for EV drivers in the winter. And let me tell you, you are not imagining things. That range loss you're seeing, it is absolutely real. But here's the good news. There's some pretty cool signs behind why it happens, and more importantly, there are things you can do to fight back. Okay, so first things first, let's get a real handle on how big of a deal this is. We need to put some actual numbers to that feeling of winter range anxiety. And just look at this map. This shows you that it's not just a problem for people living way up north. Just last year, more than half of all counties in the US had temperatures cold enough to seriously mess with an EV's performance. So yeah, this is a really widespread thing. So what's the bottom line? Well, the data shows that, on average, an EV can lose up to 40% of its range in freezing weather. 40%! That is a massive, massive drop. And it's exactly why that quick trip to the store can suddenly feel like you're planning a cross-country road trip. But why? Why does this even happen? Well, to really get how to beat the cold, we need to peek inside your car's battery and see what's actually going on. Here's a really simple way to think about it. Imagine the lithium ions inside your battery are like little workers. They're constantly moving back and forth to store and release energy. Now, when it's warm, they're zipping around. They're super efficient. But when it gets cold, the fluid they have to move through gets all thick and syrupy. It's like they're trying to run through molasses. Everything just slows down. And this chart right here, this shows you the science behind that molasses problem. As the temperature drops, something called internal resistance in the battery just skyrockets. Think of it like a giant traffic jam for your car's energy. The battery has to work way harder to push electricity out, and a bunch of that energy gets wasted instead of actually moving your car. So what does all that sciencey stuff mean for you when you're driving? Well, a cold battery with that high resistance means slower chemical reactions. That translates to less power when you hit the accelerator and just a lower overall capacity. Bottom line, a warm battery is a happy, efficient battery. So this whole slowdown really boils down to three big problems. First, you get power loss. That's that sluggish feeling when you accelerate. Second, capacity loss. That's the lower range we've been talking about. And third, and this is a big one, something called accelerated aging. Constantly forcing a cold battery to work hard can actually cause long-term damage. Okay, so that was all the bad news. But here's the really good news. You have a secret weapon in this fight, and it's called preconditioning. It sounds technical, but it's actually super simple. Preconditioning is just the process of getting your battery warmed up to its happy place, its ideal temperature, before you unplug and start your drive, or before you pull up to a fast charger. And doing it is incredibly easy. Most EVs these days let you automate the whole thing. You could just use a scheduled departure feature in your app, and the car takes care of everything. Or if you're heading to a fast charger, just pop it into the car's navigation, and it'll start warming up automatically. You can even just manually turn on the heat a few minutes before you have to leave. Easy. So why even bother? Well, benefit number one, and it's a big one, more range. A warm, efficient battery doesn't have to waste energy warming itself up while you're driving. All that power goes straight to the wheels, giving you the best possible range right from the moment you pull out of your driveway. Benefit number two, faster charging. Have you ever gotten to a supercharger in the winter and just sat there getting frustratingly slow speeds? Yep, that's a cold battery. Preconditioning warms it up so it's ready to accept the fastest charge possible, saving you a whole bunch of time. And honestly, this might be the most important benefit of all, a longer life for your battery. By warming up the battery before you put it under a heavy load, you're reducing the stress on its cells. This really helps protect its health and capacity for years and years. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. As the experts at JOA put it, this isn't just about making your life easier, it's really about protecting your investment by keeping that battery in its happy, safe temperature range. But it's not all on you. The car manufacturers are getting way smarter too. They're building some really cool tech right into the cars themselves to help fight the cold. One of the biggest game changers here has been the move from old-school resistive heaters to modern heat pumps. A resistive heater, it's basically like the glowing wires in your toaster. It works, but it sucks a ton of power straight from your battery. A heat pump, on the other hand, is so much smarter. It works like a reverse air conditioner, grabbing waste heat from all over the car, the motors, the electronics, and uses it to warm up the battery and the cabin. It's just way more efficient. And the difference is actually kind of mind-blowing. In one cold weather test, a Model Y with a heat pump was more efficient than the smaller Model 3 that still had the old resistive heater. Think about that. The Model Y is a bigger, heavier car, and it was still more efficient in the cold. That's just the power of smart engineering right there. Okay, so let's put all this together. Here is your definitive playbook for not just surviving, but actually thriving with your EV in the winter. So let's recap the big ones. First, and this is key, always precondition while your car is still plugged in. That way you're using power from the wall, not from your battery. Second, make your life easier and automate it with scheduled departure. Third, always use your car's built-in navigation when you're going to a fast charger. And finally, if you can, parking in a garage gives you a huge head start. And look, this isn't just theory. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory studied EVs in the crazy cold of Alaska and came to a clear conclusion. If you follow these simple best practices, EVs are absolutely viable, even in the toughest winter climates. So that kind of leaves us with a final question, right? Is the cold just this big weakness you have to deal with? Or is it a chance to get to know your car a little better and become a smarter, more efficient driver? Because with the right know-how, the cold doesn't have to be a problem at all. It's just another part of the drive.